Whether you love it or hate it, there is no denying AI is a very powerful tool for developers. It can massively boost productivity, speed up repetitive work, or even help you to come up with smarter solutions if used the right way. But when it comes to game development, there are still areas where most AI tools fall short. They don't actually understand your project, have no idea about the world you're building, your mechanics, and interactions between systems. Everything they know is the context you manage to feed them in the prompt before asking a question, which is often not enough to truly understand the problem. And even if you show them all the code, there is still the editor side that doesn't quite fit into text format. And here is where comes the sponsor of today's video, Bezi. Look, I've always been cautious when it comes to AI, sometimes even too skeptical, especially with all the hype around the latest vibe coding trends. I believe there is a fine line between using AI to solve your problems and using it in a way that helps you grow as a developer in the long run. But like many of you, AI has become an integral part of my workflow and I use it every single day to solve dozens of problems in my game. So why not to make the most out of it and use an AI tool built specifically for Unity? Unlike other AIs, Bezi is an assistant that is fully aware of your project and not just your code. And with the agent mode, it doesn't only suggest what scripts to edit or create, but also does that for you. I was contacted by Bezi's team to try out their tool, so let's actually put it to the test with a few tests from my own projects and see how well Bezi handles them. Alright, so I was thinking how I'm gonna be testing Bezi, should I create a new project? But then I remembered the project that I mentioned in the previous video. If you haven't seen it, the thumbnail will be in this or this corner. But anyways, the Overcooked is the game I was working at the time. I'm not working on it anymore, but there are a lot of tasks that I didn't complete on this game, which we can try and complete with Bezi. So at first I was thinking to tell you more about the game for anyone that haven't seen the previous video, but actually let's do one better and ask Bezi to tell us a bit more about the project. So let's open up the Bezi and write the prompt. And okay, just a small prompt to tell us about the game. Alright, and it's actually finished. Based on your project, Overstreamed is a time management game when you play as a streamer trying to balance content creation with daily life tasks. The game creates a chaotic juggling act between streaming, cooking, eating, and dealing with various interruptions. Indeed, in the game you act as a streamer. The main loop of the game is you stream to your followers and also you cook for yourself food to eat. So this is actually perfect because without telling Bezi anything about the game, straight away it knows exactly as much as I know about my personal game. And let's actually start with the first task, which is adding new kitchen object to the game. Alright, so in the kitchen we have different kitchen objects which we can take and interact with. For example, we have a steak, potato, pizza. We can, for example, take the steak, put it into the pan, put the pan on the stove. Alright, so the task that I want to complete is adding a new kitchen object, which is gonna be a salad. The salad should add a buff to the player, which will make him move faster, and also for the duration of the buff of the salad, both of the bars, the hunger and anger bars, should stop, and after the X amount of time passes, the player should get a debuff that would slow the player for X amount of duration. So let's actually go to Bezi and write a prompt to making that task. Alright, as you can see, instantly Bezi created a new script for the salad kitchen object. It already used the kitchen object base class that I'm using for other kitchen objects. It uses the interface that I have in the project. Alright, it seems Bezi completed the implementation of the new kitchen object. These are some scripts Bezi worked on. Alright, so let's go back to Unity and let's now try to add the new kitchen object prefab to the existing ones. Alright, let's see if the salad spawned into the kitchen, and yep, here we go, we have the salad. We can pick it up from one counter, we can put it on another counter, and if I press the alternate interaction button, yep, here we go, the salad consumed and the player is moving very fast, both of the bars stopped, and also now the debuff duration, the player is moving very slow, and yep, after a couple of seconds the player returned to its normal state with its normal speed. And as you can see, everything is working perfectly fine. I didn't have to write a single line of code, Bezi did everything for me. I can really see how powerful this tool can be for beginners. You follow a tutorial, copy every single line of code, but for some reason it doesn't work. And you have to go back, look through every single line of code and find the exact issue. But with Bezi, it's really that simple because it sees your scene and can pinpoint the exact issue you have. But there is still the narrow line I was mentioning earlier. If you just need to fix the problem, go ahead, accept the changes and everything is fine. But if you actually actually want to learn, take your time, read what Bezi found, try to understand why it happened and how Bezi fixed it. That is where the real growth happens, and that's what separates learning with AI from just letting it do the work for you. Alright, so for the next task I have something that is really interesting. I haven't opened this project for quite some time, and when I did recently, I had this weird bug when one of the counters wasn't working. To be specific, I have this fuse box in the game that was working perfectly, but now when I opened the project, for some reason it doesn't work. I immediately started looking at the code, but since I didn't work on this project, I didn't think that the problem is in the code itself. So I started looking in the inspector to see some problems in the scene, and I found out that we have this weird offset on the box collider of the fuse box. So the player is trying to shoot a raycast from its position to its forward direction, but since the box collider is not on its place, the raycast will never hit the target and the player cannot interact with it. So this is a very interesting task because the problem is not in the script, it's actually in the inspector in the values of the box collider, and I'm really interested to see how well Bezi analyzes the scene and finds the weird offset of the box collider. So let's open up Bezi and tell it about our problem. Alright, so it didn't find the issue yet, it didn't mention the box collider, but it did add some additional debugs to find exactly where is the problem. I know these debugs won't work because the interact method itself doesn't work for now, so I'm just gonna tell Bezi that none of the debugs fired. Alright, so Bezi added some additional debugs, but most importantly, it identified the core issue. It says, based on the collider data I saw, the fusebox collider has the center offset of some values, and the Z offset is quite large and might mean that collider is positioned far from where you think, and you need to adjust the collider center to 0, 0, 0 positions, which is actually true. This is exactly the problem we have in the game, and if I fix the box collider's position, we'll be able to interact with the fuse box. Alright, so I fixed the weird offset of the box collider, and as you can see, I'm pressing the interact button, and yep, everything works, the minigame starts. I think this is really interesting experiment because the problem was not in the script itself, and to find the exact issue why the fuse box was not working, you had to look at the screen and analyze the values in the inspector. So this is exactly what Bezi did. It successfully analyzed the scene and told us the exact problem that we have. Alright, so for the final task, I decided to add something new to the train survival project. If you are my subscriber, you should know this project from my previous videos. If you are not, it's perfect time to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. But anyways, for a long time, I wanted to add a custom editor tool that would make the development of the game much easier. But to be honest, editor tools are my weak point, and I assume it will take a lot of time for me to make this custom tool that I have in mind. There are a couple of things that I really want to add to the game. So I want some separate window from where I would be able to control some things in the game. For example, the only way to get the weapons during the game is by picking them up. There was also an issue when I was running out of ammo all the time, and there wasn't any method to add ammo during the gameplay. I also wanted to be able to change the daytime during the gameplay, but again there wasn't a way to change the daytime unless you go to the editor and manually do the changes. And finally, in some cases where I was far from the train, I didn't want to spend time to go back to the train on foot, so just a button that would teleport the player to the train's position will save a lot of time. Alright, let's get back to Bezi and ask it to create that editor tool for us. Alright, Bezi is done, a playmode debug tool is created, so let's now go back to the editor and see what do we have. Alright, no compiled errors, let's go to the tools. And here it is, the playmode debug tool. Alright, this is the tool that Bezi created. We can select the weapon type, so these are flare gun or the shotgun, and we have a button to add that weapon to the inventory. We can also add an ammo for the held weapon that we are currently holding. There is the slider for changing the time of the day, and also the button for teleporting the player to the train's location. Alright, so let's now play the game and see how well it works. Alright, you can see currently I don't have any weapons in the inventory, so I select the shotgun and click the add weapon to the inventory. And yep, immediately the weapon was added to the inventory and I can use it as normal weapon that we have in the game. Alright, so the same with the ammo. I do have 5 ammo right now, and when I click the button, yep, it added 5 more to the inventory. And when I open it, yep, you can see 2 times it added the ammo box to the inventory. Perfect. One thing that I noticed, the slider for changing the time of the day and teleporting player to the train's position doesn't work, but that's okay, I'm just gonna go back to Bezi and ask it to fix those. Alright, Bezi found both of the issues, so let's go back and see if they are fixed now. And yep, changing the time of the day now works perfectly. I can change the value, and when I press the button, the daytime changes. This works perfectly. And also for teleporting the player to the train's position, I click the button and the player immediately gets teleported to the train. We just need a small offset in the y-axis, but I'm sure that's also an easy fix for Bezi. This is very convenient for me because, as I said, editor tools are my weak point, and I assume it would take a lot of hours for me to make something like this. And even if I used another AI like ChatGPT, it would still take a lot of time because I'd have to share a lot of context about about the inventory, about the player, about the train, about the weather system. But with Bezi, it was this fast because it already knows about all of my scripts, it knows about my scene, and can straight away make changes on it. After spending some time with Bezi, I can say it's a really capable tool, not just for prototyping, but also for real development work too. It's not a magic button that will build your game for you, and like any AI, it won't design the perfect architecture or structure your entire game from scratch. But when you already have a foundation, Bezi will adapt to your workflow and keep the quality of your code on the same level. Unlike other tools, it's built specifically for Unity, so it actually sees your scene, the components, their values in the inspector, and how everything is connected in the hierarchy. It almost feels like having a second person on your project who understands it as well as you do, and that's what makes it stand out for me. But at the same time, you can see how much further it can go. Right now, Bezi can tell you exactly what is wrong and how to fix it. But when the solution requires modifying the scene, Bezi will only guide you through the steps instead of doing them automatically. That would be a real game changer, and I hope they add that option in future updates. That's all for today's video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please leave a like and let me know in the comments what you think about Bezi, or maybe any other dev assistant you've been using for your games. And see you in the next one.